We're going to take a look back again to one of those AFC playoff games that we mentioned earlier, and that's the Browns versus Steelers. Crazy start to the game. This Steelers team has been the favorite in the AFC for most of the season, and then they started to struggle towards the end of the year, and you even heard the Steelers, teams don't normally do this, but they kept saying, because they didn't really have a bye week because of COVID, that they really haven't had a week off. They really haven't been able to rest. That's why they struggled down the stretch. They lost 3 in a row at the end of the regular season before beating the Colts in week 16. And you thought, okay, the Steelers get rest in week 17, and now they come up against a division rival. They're going to be ready to go, but they were not ready to go in this one, Brandon.
Right from the start there, and it was a huge play and a huge mistake on the center. Marquise Pouncey launching the ball over Roethlisberger's head. Then they just really couldn't pounce on the ball to make it a safety, and they just compounded the error rate there. And then Browns got an easy touchdown. And in the NFL, you don't want to give up easy touchdowns. I mean, in college or high school, you don't want to give up easy touchdowns. You're just putting yourself behind the ball. Now you're having to come out and maybe change what you want to do. But on top of that, I think the next 2 possessions, they just really got steamrolled, and it was momentum that really took them down. The momentum and especially in the playoffs, this is big. If there were fans there, maybe it could have helped out and it would have been a little different, but with no fans in the game, that didn't really help anything. But the momentum of the game itself, just getting down by that and seeing that happen on the first play, I think Pittsburgh was reeling a little bit. They didn't recover fast enough. The Browns took advantage. I know, like I said, I think within 2 to 3 possessions later, the Browns managed to pick off Ben Roethlisberger, turned those turnovers into points, and then they were just really looking down going into halftime. I know Mike Tomlin did everything he could to kind of try to rally, and they did in the second half. They rallied to make it respectable, but they just kind of dug themselves too big of a hole to be able to dig themselves out, and they lost the game, unfortunately. And it almost looks like it might be the end of an era there in Pittsburgh, especially for Ben Roethlisberger. And it's kind of sad. He had a great season, so I don't think he's going to be done playing, but maybe possibly done playing in Pittsburgh. So it's kind of sad to see him go out that way.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what the Steelers, try to do at the end of this season now that the season is over for them, where they're going to go at quarterback. They could kind of give Ben one more year just as a thank you to him, but they are a competitive team. They have a great defense, and they have a great receiver. So if you bring in a veteran quarterback in there, you're going to be right back up there at the top of the AFC once again if all goes well and everybody stays healthy. So that's going to be interesting what they do with him there. I think one of the biggest things, too, with this game, especially, you mentioned the 28-0 run that the Browns went on in the first half. One thing that does is that means that Baker Mayfield doesn't have to do too much offensively. They got that first touchdown off of special teams, and everything just kept rolling for the Browns then that allows Baker Mayfield to just be efficient. He was 21 for 34, 263, so it's not like he was throwing for 350, 400 yards, but he had a very good game. He had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, so there was, he could limit his turnovers. He didn't have to do too much in that game, and that, I think, helped the Browns, especially in the second, third, and fourth quarters, to kind of hang on to that lead, and I think that was huge for them.
Yeah, I think anytime you can just ask your quarterback to kind of manage the game, sit back, hand the ball off, and do some play action, not really ask him to do too much, especially not having to throw the ball downfield, I really think you can go. And with a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, he can easily do that. And I think that's exactly what you see in the Browns do, and they controlled the game throughout the second half. They didn't really have to do too much. They just kind of had to keep Pittsburgh from really having quick, explosive scoring plays. And that's exactly what they did. They made them earn it and come back into the game. Like I said, they made it respectable, but just not close enough to actually make it a win. And the Browns snuck away, and they're going to get to play Kansas City this weekend.